Val, have a good show.
Hello. What's going on, guys? Hope all is well. Hope all is well. Well, man, I said, I saw, and I delivered. Man, I got a phenomenal guest on today. Let me bring her in, man. Her name is Jamila. I met Jamila. We're both at Landmark. She did communications course. She's a communications expert. She is building a conglomerate over there, and and the cold. It's kind of warm now. The spaces of Syracuse, New
It's warm now.
York. She is doing her thing. She's by way of Trinidad. So let me tell you, she got a thick accent, but a powerful one at that, though. She has a powerful accent, and she does not play games. We're gonna be talking about some, her being in communications. We're gonna, she's gonna share a lot of great stuff today, and we're gonna pull some things out. But we're gonna have a conversation about the cost of avoiding conversations. That's what we're having a conversation about. The cost of avoiding conversations. But we're gonna get to know her a lot and create that space for her and for you guys, so you guys can be able to be with it. And we gonna tap in today, right? We're gonna tap in today, and I'm excited about it. So Jamila, thank you for being here. Thank you for just taking the space and your time today and to create that. And I know you can be in other places or whatever, but you chose to be here on Battle Tested. What doesn't break you builds your brand, which is a powerful name, and I'm sure you're going to dive into that this afternoon. So just share with people who you are and what you're doing out there in the world.
Thank you so much for having me, Brandon. And it was an easy yes for me after meeting with you, vibing with you, talking with you. I'm really, really inspired by who you are, what you're up to, the energy that you bring in every conversation. So this was an easy yes. So my name is Jamila DeBeek. I am coming all the way from Trinidad. So if you're listening and you're from Trinidad and Tobago, you know what it is. You hear the accent, you feel like you're home. And I am an entrepreneur, founder, a leader, and I'm a causer and creator of other leaders. That's what I'm up to, right? Like through my company, Virtual Bold. My background is in creative industry management. Then I went on to do leadership, and I worked with just like different people in different spheres, different industries. And after completing leadership programs, I was like, no, I'm going to bring it. I'm really going to bring all the things that I see would make a difference to empower creators and for me to create as well. So that's why I'm here. I'm here in Syracuse, New York. I love Syracuse, New York. I love it here. My mom has been here for like about 20 years. My sister's here. And it's super cold, but we drink iced coffees in the winter. So you know how it is. So I'm a Caribbean girl here drinking iced coffee in the winter. That's what's happening.
That is so phenomenal.
So that's a little bit about me.
Yeah, that's phenomenal right there, man. Yeah, you definitely share with yourself in a mouthful right there. It's exciting to be here with you as well, Jamila, for real. But one of the things is you being in communication and having did that space for some years in Landmark and dealing with that and being an expert at this point in the communication sports. Every conversation you avoid is like a bill, right? It's like a bill, and today, we're gonna be talking about it. We're gonna dissect the price of that bill and the payoff of such, right? So,
Yeah.
so it's so great to be with you. Have a communications expert here, and your listening is one of those biggest things, like, and I'm sure you can definitely point to a lot of different things when it comes down to that. So,
Yeah.
but one of the things is this. Here's what when I was really building this outline. Most people think that's why I was just having a conversation with my boy. I was giving him somebody I met in Landmark. He's a sales manager. He's probably gonna come on the show one day, and we were just talking about that as well. But most people think conflict is expensive, though, right? Like, they think conflict is the thing that's expensive. However, it's avoidance of conflict, not completing conversations. That is the most expensive thing. Wouldn't you share?
Yeah. So for me, I mean, I've been on both sides of the coin, right? Like, I've been on both sides of the fence. I've avoided conversations, and when I do an inventory, there are conversations I still see that may be complete. And there are conversations that I had to have that were difficult conversations. And um, when you are standing for something, everything that's not that is going to show up. So if you're standing for completing conversations, incomplete conversations are going to show up, right? You are going to start operating in that space because whatever is necessary for you to grow is going to show up for you. And so for me, avoiding conversations, usually you experience it as a block, you experience it as restriction, and you really experience it as like a disconnect from yourself. And so for me, a lot of times, not having a conversation restricts you, and also being really, really clear about when to have the conversation. It's not that you don't have the conversation, but when you have the conversation, being clear about what you want to communicate responsibly, so that at the end of the conversation, both people are empowered. And sometimes it's important to be clear about what's showing up in your listing, what's showing up for you, and where you may be inauthentic, so that when you have the conversation, it empowers both people, and you both leave the conversation empowered, right? And not just like you vomiting everything else you want to say.
Yeah, you're spot on with that, and because, man, I'm just over here listening to what you're sharing there, and like not completing, and you're absolutely spot on. Like having a conversation when you need to have the conversation, and they kind of like I was telling him, he was I ain't gonna get into that too much or whatever, but it is, you have to create the space of the right time to have the conversation. Like, so when you just said that, it's like you can't be have a conversation at the baseball game and trying to drink a beer, right? Or you having alcoholic beverages, or at the cookout, and even if you're in a setting, it's having the right conversation when you need to have it, because that's where you, like you said, it's going to give you confidence in it, and like you're going to leave there empowered and at peace with, like, wow, how many times like I'm sure I've had many conversations like this one was not listening. Like, he'd be like, did you hear anything I just said to me? Like what? Like, oh my, have you having several conversations like such, huh?
Yeah, and you know what I usually do when I realize that I had a conversation, I felt like the person wasn't listening. I usually check myself. It's a conversation is you being 100% over there with the other person. And if they were not listening, most likely there's something in your communication that was missing. Your communication is not about you. It's not about how you feel about the communication. It's about how the other person receives it and experiences it. Communication is like it's something you give, right? Like you give, you extend yourself. And we all want to be heard, but the only access to that, like, for example, you've ever had a conversation with somebody and you realize they're not listening to you, and you're both arguing, and the moment you say, okay, yeah, I totally get what you're saying, and you really settle down and listen, they usually calm down, they usually relax. And it happens with me with clients, with in partnership conversations and so on. The practice of giving the other person space to really say what they want to say, getting it gives them, it ends all the angst and all of those things to them, because they were heard. That's why people communicate, to be gotten, to be understood, to be heard. And the moment you do that, you would find that the conversation flows smoother, because the person has more space now to hear what you have to say, because they don't have a lot of things happening over there with them. You know what I mean? So I think that that's also important. Whatever you see missing in a conversation is what you want to bring in.
Yeah, absolutely. I love what you're sharing right there, and about that, and having that listening ear, and being able to, what we call is, recreate them, and have that, and that lets them know, like, man, because a lot of the time it ain't even about you. Nobody has ever listened to them before, and we live in our past so
Yeah.
much. And it's like, you're just another face of another day. That's it. And so what you're sharing,
Hmm.
like, with the, just recreate them, and be in their world, and create this space for them to let, because we all got this. No, I don't say all. A lot of people. I'm gonna say, I can't put myself in that category anymore. A lot of the times, though, we have this barrier up. Like, you don't understand me, barrier. You know what I'm saying? Like, we have this
Yeah.
barrier up, and the conversation is already difficult in the first place, and then to put this right here, and, like, it's something there that's not, um you get to a space of, man, I don't even want to have this. All right, cool. You go your way, I go my way, and we'll talk about it later, though. But, like,
Yeah.
so let me ask you a question, though. What are some of the things that, like, you like from your space of listening, and when you're talking to your clients, like, what kind of helps you to identify who you're talking to help them get to the next level of in their journey, or their business, or their website? What are some of the things that you kind of listen to help move that pendulum along?
Yeah. The first thing I do is I kind of don't come in with, and as much as possible, I let go of my preconceived notions about what's happening in at any point in time, right? Like, you almost meet with a new person every day, right? So we might have weekly meetings, or we might meet twice per week, but it's a new person, new experiences, it's a new day, whatever it is. So the first thing I want to do is I want to have nothing in my mind about the way it should be, or whatever it is. Yes, understanding that there is some context, but really giving them the space to come newly into the conversation. That's the first thing. But the most important thing is, I heard somebody say empathy is actually believing what the other person says, right? And so
Mm.
sometimes people may come to you with something that's occurring with them, or something that because you may have the reference you have, and you're there to support, to advise, etc. You may think you know the way it should be, but there's no access to really supporting them in that conversation if you do not just believe what they say and get what they say. And it's not
Mm.
about truth or not. It's like, this is difficult for me. And even if you think it's a situation that they can get out of, it's not a difficult situation. You just have to believe that it's difficult. And a lot of times, people don't think about how the cost of vulnerability for some people in
Mm.
a conversation, right? Like, and how courageous it is to be vulnerable. And some people disregard that. And I think for me, I always really seek to, and I'm not saying that I'm perfect or anything like that, but it's something that I'm conscious of, that this person in this moment, they are talking about, they are dealing with something that's vulnerable, no matter what it is. The moment somebody identifies a gap, that means that they're saying that there's something missing and I'm responsible. And the moment you give people space and acknowledge that vulnerability, acknowledge that, believe them, offer empathy, you have access to support them. And there are times when I haven't been that, like where I'm like, oh, well, this is what we need to do right away. I come in there. But as much as yeah, it's like solution right away. And what I realized is everybody teaches you something. I realized that's me not wanting to sit with the pain of the gap. And so I wanted to fill the gap right away. Sometimes you want to have that conversation quickly so you get to the other side. And there's so much value in going through a conversation. And so that's what I usually bring that I think makes a difference. And when it's missing, I catch it. And sometimes you see it reflected to you, like you realize that, oh, this person is actually not able to hear what I'm saying because I'm not giving them that space. And then you adjust. And that's what I usually do. Yeah.
Got it. I got it. But you said something spot on there when you was talking about you had a conversation about like you were speaking about vulnerability. And it placed me back to where my therapist, right? And I was going through therapy for 2.5 years. She said, "You got vulnerability issues." And I was like, "Who, me? Like what?" And it really sometimes we don't even know we have this vulnerability barrier. But like you said, it's very courageous to be open to something like you're out to being in this like, hey, here's what I got going on. And especially in business, if you're a coach and you're any type of coach, and you can just be vulnerable, it's like, hey, here's what I got going on, and this person got to go try to figure it all out, like, and that'll help right there avoid those difficult conversations as well, right? Like, because if you just say, hey, man, this is what I got going on, I'm just transparent in it. You get what you got what you didn't get, and boom, and that's where that's space. So what you were just talking about, that being vulnerability, being courageous, and so people can really get what you're communicating, like really, really authentically get it. And that's where this goes. When you got two closed ears, your ears are like this right here, both closed. One, you can hear it up loud and like you're loud, but you're freaking, both your ears are closed because you're not listening though. You're not listening. And when you're not listening, you're trying to, I gotta speak. How many times do you have conversations like that? Like so many people like, man, you're not listening. Like, you're not listening to me. Like, you're not hearing nothing I'm saying. You're just a body in front of me. Right? Like, and for me, that's spot on though. Like you really spoke on something. It got me excited about that piece though. Like, yeah, having communication is because one of my sergeants in the military, he said this: communication is the key to any successful relationship.
It is. Yeah.
Communication is the key to any successful relationship. And you can't go out there and help them to get to where their goals is to make an extra $10,000 in their business, or make them 6 figures in their first time making 6 figures in their business a year, or make $1 million and give them to $1 million and using AI and these different tools that we have now. If they're not listening, you know what I mean? If they're not listening, if they're avoiding the hard conversation of what I did or what I didn't do, because this is many times, even in our relationship, whether I was late or, you know what I mean? Like, or we didn't communicate, we cleaned it up right then and there, right? Like, we was like, oh, no. Hey, because it gets everything back to bleach in a rag, because now it's clean, and our relationships continue to flourish from there. You ain't got no, right? Like, I don't want to have that conversation, and that's where that's why I love what we do in the world of communication and leadership, and what we're out to develop together. And in this space, and even just leading up to this conversation right now. So tell the world of
Yeah.
who Jamila is, though. Like, what is this little girl from Trinidad that grew up in Trinidad that decided that she was gonna move all the way to New York? But it took a process to get there, And so tell the world what kind of guided you there, and just in a few minutes, and so we can they can get a background and context of who you are and what led you to doing what you're doing
Yeah.
now, about to run this $1 million or $10 million conglomerate or whatever. I'm gonna speak it already, so I'm gonna speak it out of my mouth and speak it over to you already. So
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, I receive it. And not just to say, hey, it's $1 million, it's just impact. And also, I'm 100% a believer in you lead the way. You lead by example, not just what you say, but what you do. Because words are, words. Words are just a precursor to action, right? Like that's what they're there for. So Jamelia is um, a Trini girl, as they say. Grew up in Trinidad and Tobago. My I grew up with my sister, connected with my dad, who's since passed. He lived in California when he passed, and he lived here all of my life. And my mom moved, then my sister moved when I was about 18 years old, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna do this on my own, right? So at 18 years old, I was like, I'm working, I'm gonna make it, right? And really started working in administration. That was my main background, and then I studied fashion management because I love the creative industries, but I really love the management side of anything because I always want to know what's happening in the background that makes this work. That's always my question. What's happening in the background that makes this work? What could we build with that, and how could we do that better? And it's good, and sometimes to my detriment, because that's kind of where I go. And sometimes people are like, we don't want to make this better. It works just fine. Okay. So that happens. And, I grew up in Trinidad, studied fashion management. And when I graduated from, from the Caribbean Academy of Fashion and Design out of the University of Trinidad and Tobago, I went on to create this camp because I realized that a lot of students didn't understand the fashion industry. It's a multi-trillion-dollar industry, and they had no access to it. I had no access to it as a teenager. That was one of my first forays of like creating something I didn't see. And so ran that camp for probably about five years. We had 200 students and some adults as well who all the way into their 50s, who were able to like rekindle their love for fashion, start up new enterprises. Students who went on to fashion school. Some of them went to fashion school abroad, coming out of that program. And it was like my first time just like going hard to create something I didn't see. And it wasn't easy. Like initially the school was like, some of the administrators were like, we're not doing that. And then there was one administrator, Miss Carr. She's like, let's do it. And she supported me, and we got government agencies involved in Trinidad, and we're very creative in the Caribbean. And so we created that. Went on to do, then I saw something else missing, and I was like, let's do it. Create a trade mission. We created this trade mission opportunity to go to Tokyo. And we did that 3 years in a row, took Caribbean brands there. Never been to Tokyo. The first time I have never gone, and I heard that there was an opportunity there, and I was like, well, let's do that. So did it remotely, set it up remotely, got there, and did it 2 other times with just so many different allies along the way. Dr. Denise Angus, just a bunch of different people who were like, yeah, let's do this for the Caribbean designers. And completing school, I did some, developed the business model with some different agencies, and had some not so good situations come out of that. And I think I would have shared with you, that some of my ideas were stolen and were essentially produced without me. And I think that that was my first, like, difficult, really difficult moment. At some difficult
Mm-hmm.
times as a student, trying to like work, because I went full time as an entrepreneur when I went to fashion school. At some difficult times, but I think that was the hardest time for me, because I was like, you could do everything and you just still you're still gonna get, screwed essentially, like, and when that happened, it took me a while to deal with it. But it's that same adage, right? Like, you have to really deal with things and face them head on, because they'll slow you down. It's
Mm-hmm.
never gone, it's always in the background.
Mm-hmm.
And so that showed up for me, and so many things that I do were informed by that. And I would do some great, amazing things that would be in the background for me. And then, I did, landmark, and did that just as I got married, which was the best thing for me because it really did impact me, who I was being. So I did the forum and all of those things, and started my company, for Caribbean brands, and we developed a digital platform and two other ventures. And at the end of like that leadership program, I did a 2-year leadership program with Landmark, their team management and leadership program. And at the end of that program, I had to be really real with myself, right? Like, I was kind of doing pieces of my vision, right? Like, I was selling myself short. And I was so comfortable with that, because I thought it would be it's an easier sell, right? Because I don't have to negotiate too much. If I sell myself short, it's a
Mm-hmm.
cheaper price. So I could just say, I'm only going to do this, I'm only going to do that, and not be as bold. And um, and coming out of that program, we during that program, I coached probably close to 100 people with their own projects,
Wow.
businesses, just projects inside of their businesses. And really was effective in coaching people, coaching others to cause them to be effective. And I really got a glimpse of like what my real potential was. Because I said I was going to do it. I said we were going to be high performing. We did it. And I got clear on like what it takes to really engineer what I call like an inevitable situation.
Mm.
Like, you say it and you cause it to occur. And then I was like, bet, I'm doing it now. I'm moving. I'm coming to the US. I want the best possible opportunity to impact as many people as possible. And that's what I love about the United States. It gives you that opportunity, um,
Mm.
to really, really be able to do a lot in terms of commerce. And and I think that entrepreneurship is such a key and such a tool for people being empowered and moving out of situations that would otherwise disempower them and disenfranchise them. And I'm such a fan of that. So I was like, I want to do it in a place where I can impact the most people. And I'm like, I'm doing it. And, we came here. I came here as an investor in my company, started my company up, and that's how I moved. And we have been able to, in a short period of time, we had one of our clients launch a program yesterday that, you know, to really empower people who are taking care of family members with Alzheimer's. And her mom passed away less than a year. And to be able to move through these spaces with her, that she has this program now, people have paid for, she has facilitators, and it's actually occurring. We worked with a client to double his monthly revenue in his business, and so many other clients we're working with. And just being able to have that impact just makes the world a difference. And it made all the things that I would have gone through and still go through. It's so worth it, because it's always bigger than you. It's not just about me. It isn't. It is about the people that I impact. It's so shallow when it's just about you. And so that's why I'm here in a nutshell. And I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to be in Syracuse. I'm excited to be in the US and to really be able to make an impact and bring, once you're able to accomplish a lot, especially in the Caribbean, it takes something. And I want to bring that grit that we have in the Caribbean, I want to bring that grit here. I want to bring that and to be able to support people to move past wherever they are. So that's me. That's why I'm here. And that's how I founded my company, Virtual Bold.
Man, that is wow. That's a lot, man. Like you really shared with us where you started from and like how you evolved over time, and and that's when you fall. Like what I heard in my ear, what you would definitely what this show is talking about, battle tested. What doesn't break you builds your brand. So you was like a poster child for that right there, and because to be in the
I feel like
fashion
it.
industry at a young age and to be creating something, and that's the thing about it is to be over there creating something and somebody kind of take your talent, not take your talents, but take your gift, or take your product and be like, I'm gonna use it as my own. And that's be in the background of I think a lot of people. However, here's the thing is right here, Jamila, and this is where I had to get to. What you make, nobody can steal. Because when that's the case,
Yeah.
you can create it better. Right? They can't get your mind. Right? They're not that little
Yeah.
girl that was 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 years old, 18, 17 years old. They're not her, but she thought about it. She went to sleep for days and days and days and days. And so by the time you actually put that in action, you done thought about all that stuff. See, they only see one people. They probably produced it and created a space for it and added it. But what you had, and it really birthed you to who you are today. So I definitely want to acknowledge you for that though. Because that it takes something to really I know when you get out and get knocked off the horse, you're like, man, I gotta dust these elbows off. I gotta get back in the trenches, right? Like, but like you can definitely outgrow who you were and to step into who you are. So that's absolutely what you're doing right now that led us to having this conversation today. So I just want to acknowledge you for that right there. So like the thing is like when we oftentimes we get in this space of also um those conversations, right? I'm gonna go back to conversations and we get in this space of conversations and like powerful conversations, but we don't want to like. Is there a way that sometimes because I know there's people out there listening, like you clean up some stuff, but then you don't want to be passive too. But you don't want to like you want to have this powerful conversation, but you don't want to be passive in the conversation. Can you speak on that a little bit and or your expertise or whatever?
That's really good, Brandon. I'm so happy you brought that up because a lot of times people think that um, when you are generous in conversation or you give people space, it means that you're a pushover, right? And every I've suffered from that. But what I realize is that when you clean up the conversation, like you get really clear on what's occurring, you could communicate with them. That actually gives you access to taking the most appropriate action,
Mm-hmm.
right? You see, sometimes you feel like you could take that action in a vacuum, or you feel like you could you have the conversation and the person just thinks you're pushover because you were kind in the conversation, whatever. That doesn't mean that you don't take the most appropriate action. You still can, right? And so I would even argue that it's probably much more helpful to do that, after you have the conversation. And listen, it's not always easy to have the conversation. Sometimes you're thinking about how to approach it. Sometimes it's not appropriate to have the conversation, and there are conditions that would not allow you to have the conversation at that time. But when you do have it, the fear of, again, vulnerability, the fear of maybe somebody taking what you said and twisting it, or the fear of them just thinking you're a pushover, it's okay to have that be present in the conversation, because that gives you access to, like, even in that conversation for you to grow, because you're going to
Mm-hmm.
see, again, sometimes whatever is happening, it's not the person doing it, it's how you experience it. So it's
Mm-hmm.
really important to be brave, And that courage, again, is accessed through being vulnerable. Because when you put yourself on the line, um, when you come out on the other side, chances are you're stronger.
Spot on
Chances
with that,
are
man.
you'll be able to take the most appropriate action.
Yeah, you
Hmm.
spot on with that one
Yeah.
because you know what I mean. You are stronger on the other side of anything, right? Like 5.5 years I lost my 5.5 years ago I lost my wife, right? I seen her take a last breath, and on who I am today, I went and I share this people when people say, hey, they were like man, my condolences. You still get my condolences now. I'm like, yeah, I'm like, and I share with them, I wouldn't be who I am today without that. You know what I'm saying? Like I wouldn't be who I am today without that. Yeah, I'm strong, and does that, my kids, um, in that space or whatever of not having a mom. However, like they're stronger. Like I told my son this right here. I said, and I shared this. I said, man, you know, your mom, like it's been 5.5 years ago. You know, the thing is, you're 5.5 years old with I mean, yeah, you're 5.5 years old with 11 years of experience. I mean, with 10 years, 11 years of experience. He's like, and he really got that. Like my daughter's 7.5 now. She's 5.5 years old with 2 years, nearly 2 years of experience. I mean, like she had to like her life. It was that, and so she's become more
Hmm.
vibrant and knowing it. I'm more a speaker because let me tell you, a year ago, what's today, the 10th? A year ago, right around like I think it was like close to the day I met DC for the first time. We had one conversation, and we are on this podcast a year later. The numbers of where I started from my August to now, it's 114% increase, right? And so
Yeah.
that I would have never done something like this prior to, but it was because we had communication. You jumping into sharing who you are, being vulnerable. So you're
Yeah.
spot on right there with like, with that. But I'm so glad you said that and was in that space of it. And but like a lot of the times when we have to really get, here's a point we have to really get when it comes down to communication. Like when you don't have communication, you're not being transparent. That's a bit inauthentic and dishonesty.
It is.
It's dishonesty. Like you're supposed to have a conversation but not have it. You're like, oh, that's being dishonest right there. And
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
like, is it?
Listen.
Yeah, go ahead and share that.
No, I was gonna say, yeah, it is, and you know it too. Like I mean, I've had conversations um when when I shouldn't have had them, and have not had conversations when I should have had them, right? I think it's also really, again, when you know you should have that conversation, right? And also what you communicate there is what will make the difference when it's appropriate to do so. But it's really you want to check, why am I having this conversation? Why am I not having this conversation? Because sometimes also having a conversation isn't authentic because you are just trying to say what you want to say. You haven't even gotten to the source of it. You haven't checked to see if it's appropriate to have that conversation. And communication is 100% what's happening in your listening and what you're speaking, like what you're hearing, what you're seeing, right? And so you always want to be checking, what am I actually listening, like what am I hearing, what is influencing what I'm hearing right now. And it is inauthentic, but I would say inappropriate or um irrelevant conversations is also
Mm-hmm.
inauthentic.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need to apologize. Sometimes you don't need to
Mm-hmm.
talk about a bunch of stuff. Like you just need to say, hey, listen, I'm sorry.
Right.
No excuses, no nothing. Hey, this is what's happening. Hey, you put it on your calendar. Hey, I need to have this conversation. And by this time, I have to have this conversation. If these are the things that are required for me to have the conversation, let me get those things together so that I can have this conversation responsibly. But you always want to check. It's like an audit of what's happening over there with you, so that you can have the space to be authentic in a conversation. And that audit is personal. It's not external.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not true to it, like what you're hearing, it's inauthentic.
Yeah, like, and it's go back to that. That's like that's like tuition, right? Like, this is your tuition, your buy-in to whatever it is. It's like, because you know, you're having these powerful conversations, like you're auditing, you're listening and saying, okay, cool, what did I hear? Because a lot of the times we got so much stuff in the background, what you thought you heard ain't what you heard. It ain't what you heard.
You hear
it's that little, I call it that little idiot, right? That little idiot is saying, oh, you heard this right here. Oh, you should snap right here. No, that's your past talking to you, right? Like, that's that past that, oh, you should snap. Oh, I would have snapped. They're like, man, get on out of here, dude. But so, how is the world, and like what you said earlier, how is the world occurring for you right now? Right? And ask a question. Like, what is available under that?
Yeah.
Like, what's available for that? Like, but it's like what you just said, like what I was just mentioning, tuition. It's like your tuition. That's your buy-in to get into the space of it and being with it. Being like, not being on your phone and oh yeah. Right? Because the phone is, but it's that buy-in. Be with the conversation. Don't be nothing like, oh, what we eating for dinner for tonight? Because they back here, right? Looking at the back of the head and the wall of the past. Because the past run people's life so much. Like, go ahead and share, because I heard you. It sounded like you was gearing up to say something so good, but I wanted to get that out.
No,
like,
I'm getting what you're saying. It's like it's really resonating with me that, you know, people are having those conversations and a lot of things are happening in the background, right? Like, a lot of times people come in, most of us come into a conversation with different versions of the same conversation as a filter, right? Like, we have had this same conversation and we're bringing that conversation into this new conversation. So, for example, if I come into this conversation, right? Yeah, we have an intention to share, to have a conversation. I share what I'm up to. Yeah, there's an opportunity for that. But if I come into that conversation with a script in the background, and this might be a controversial thing, right? Like with, oh, I'm going to say this, I'm going to say that, I'm going to look for this opportunity, look for that opportunity, and that's what's playing in the background, I would have no access to contribute to this conversation. I wouldn't even hear you. Right? Because what's playing in the background is, when do I say this? When do I say that?
Right.
You know, it really is important to, yes, be responsible, but at the same time, you have to put that to the side to be in the conversation. So sometimes when you're talking to someone, you have to put to the side what your response is to hear the person, because if you do that, maybe your response will change, right? Maybe your script is going to change, because now it's not just impacted by what you think, it's impacted by what's being created in the conversation. Every conversation is a creation.
Every conversation is a creation.
Every conversation is a creation. Yeah. And you don't rob it with you don't rob the opportunity to co-create something with your script. And I think that that's a lot of times what's missing. And it takes something to put your script aside and be with the person, like be with Brandon right here and say, hey, Brandon, like listen to what Brandon is creating in this moment. You could come with something totally left field from what this podcast is about, and I should be able to be with you in that conversation, because it's not about all the things we said before. It's about what's happening right now in this conversation. That's the
You know
opportunity.
what, Jamila? I really get what you just said because it's so powerful in um, what you're creating. Because like with people, like for us as human beings, I'm not gonna say people. I'm gonna say us as human beings. I'm gonna put we all in the context of like being in one bucket of us as human beings. Like we come in conversation so much with all this stuff, our past, right? Like the back of our head and our subconscious, and it's like, oh, okay, this right here. Oh, when they come to this right here, it's like we got these football plays, right? We got these football like or a strip of a movie, and it's like, oh, I'm gonna say this, like what you said, man, you spot on with that right there. And a lot of the times, you know what we be doing? Be lying to ourselves. Right? We be lying to ourselves, and we lie to ourselves about it, and like we desire for things to. We have these expectations for the conversation to go X, Y, and Z, and we don't have real
Yeah.
in it. People are not like being authentic to who they are, and you know they're avoiding those. Like, oh, I'm gonna do it this,
Yeah.
and like I said,
Yeah.
man, anything other is being inauthentic with yourself. And that's why I share that with my son sometimes, you know, as he's a growing young man. And I was like, bro, stop lying to yourself. When you stop lying to yourself, you can be with other people. Right? It's like, cause you ever been around somebody, they just, man, lies just flow off they just like a butterfly just float off their tongue. You be like how you gonna insult my intelligence like that, bro? Like, are you serious? Like, just say, bro, I ain't coming.
Stories.
Or, nah, I'm straight. I changed my mind. Don't hit me with, oh, this. Like I tell my son, I'm like, bro, like, if you stop lying to yourself, like, I've been you before. You ain't never been me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've been your age before. You ain't never been my age. What you done this, and this?
Yeah.
Experienced it already. And so it's like okay, you know, being in, and it's so spot on because your listening is so important. You're listening when you're talking to your wife, or your spouse, your significant other, your kids. Like my daughter, she's a little hustler though, because we walking, Dad, you gonna get me this right here, and I ain't talking to nobody when I'm talking to her. Like, what am I agreeing to? What am I agreeing to?
Mm-hmm.
You know, Daddy, you said this. I'm like, oh my gosh, right? Like, and it's so spot on, right? And man, and you just get to be with people, and that's the thing. That's the space of it, man. And but we gotta stop avoiding. That's the biggest thing is we stop avoiding conversation and just have those powerful conversations and be within it and stay in it. So let me ask you a question. Like, we got about, man, time went by. It's like it's shot by real fast. Like
it's a good conversation.
Right, just having a conversation. Having a conversation is shot by real fast. But one question I do want to ask you: have you ever argued with your own calling? Because a lot of people.
Oh yeah, all the time.
Answered. A lot of people argue with their calling. They got this powerful voice. See, DC. Shout out to DC. Salute you, DC. DC seen it first. I had one conversation, 25 minutes. That was supposed to be an hour conversation, but that's another story for another day. But DC was like, hey, bro, give me your number. Let's have a conversation. If you decide you want a podcast, come see me, man, because, bro, you got a powerful voice. And I was like, oh, okay. I just speak to people, you know? And he's like, nah, bro. Like, you was able to command a room and do all this right here and all that, right? But have you ever had to argue with your own calling?
Yeah, I would say so. I'll tell you two things that the two arguments I have, right? One of them is the emotional, right? The emotional cost of what you want to accomplish. A lot of times people don't take that into consideration. And so sometimes when you've had traumatic experiences in life and all of those things, no excuses. but that's just what happens, right? You some of what I've mentioned, some that I haven't mentioned. What happens is everything feels super heavy for you emotionally. But again, when you get out of your own way and you realize this is not about you, it really isn't. It's about you in service of others, you in service of your calling. It puts it in perspective. But the emotional cost of of creating what I want to create or what I'm called to create or being who I'm called to be, a lot of times is a nice way for me to like have make an excuse, right? And it's really important to be real about that and to identify the arguments, the points, right? The debate points we have against our purpose. So that's one. It's the emotional cost. And of course, one important thing that most people don't think about is the shame associated with failure. You see,
Mm,
everybody, it's, people say you either fail or you learn, but that shame keeps you back. And so for me, I want to get it right. I want to get it right the first time and all of those things. And so that shame would creep in. But what's really important, and it's an inauthentic thing, right? Because then it causes you to not be present to really what you're out to accomplish. So that has been a space of argument, right? Like, oh, I didn't get it right that time. But I think what makes it inauthentic is that the same way you argue against your purpose, you don't argue for your purpose. So at the same time,
mm,
if I look at times that I failed, I could equally look at times that I've succeeded and argue for my purpose. And that's what's inauthentic about it. Because it's so easy, and the culture right now that's occurring in the world is like, we talk about our problems, we talk about the crime, we talk about how hard it is. But a lot of us don't talk about the things that we've been able to accomplish, the times we pushed through, the times we made it, the times where we made it count, the times when we did it with 1 second on the clock. And it's
mm.
inauthentic to hold on to the failure and not acknowledge the success and not build on the success. And so that is my argument. And so my counter for that argument is, yeah, I failed, but yeah, I also succeeded. And if I am focused on not just me, I need to build on that success so I could create the opportunity and the empowerment spaces for others who may not have access to that right now. So I get out of my own way in that way. But yeah, I argue against it all the time. But that's my counter, right? Because I'm not committed to being disempowered. So if I fail, I have to argue for my successes as well. That's it.
Right. Man,
It's
that's
both
so
sides.
powerful what you share right there. Oh my goodness, boy. Woo. Hey, I got him in my. I'm like, what? Okay, now I got it. I got what you said. So I'm gonna do a light. This is something I'm
Yeah,
probably gonna start doing. So you're gonna be the first person. Before we're gonna share your information
I'm
and
here
all
for
that
it.
stuff. So this we're gonna do next. We got about 7 minutes left. Boom, 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 boom. Right, but we're gonna do a lightning round
Mm-mm.
real fast. Something I'm gonna start doing.
Yeah.
So just a one word answer for these things. So you ready?
Yep. Let's go.
Courage or comfort?
Courage.
Truth or peace?
Truth.
Love or approval?
Love.
Wow, nice. Growth or validation?
Oh, growth. The validation is so nice, but growth. Right? It's so
Grace or
comforting, but growth is the
accountability?
one. Accountability.
Systems or talent?
Systems.
Listening or speaking?
Ah, hmm. Listening.
Yeah. Man, let me add some context to that one. When your listening goes up, oh my gosh, what? You be like, right? It's a different level. It's another level. You get all that context out of the back of it. Get out of the way. Get out of the way. Get out of the way. And
Yep.
you just listen. You can create a lot of stuff there. Forgiveness or justice.
Yep. Forgiveness.
Forgiveness. Got it.
Forgiveness.
Yeah, man. It's that's the biggest thing is it's we only got about 5 minutes or whatever. So we're about to do is we're gonna share your info and your communication where people can be able to get in contact with you. And then we're gonna kind of close this thing out and give your last words. And like here's you can get Jamila's information. Go ahead and write it down with Jamila at I'm gonna let you say that. I don't want to mess up your go ahead and share that with them.
You're good. Jamelia at virtualbold.com. And virtual means bold transformation. So that's what that's about. And then the website is www.virtualbold.com. And that's the long LinkedIn link. But once you search Jamelia DeBeek, there's no other Jamelia DeBeek. Like Jamilia
DeBeek. Girl. Ain't no other me.
Yeah, and
right?
There's no other me. I'm so happy my husband had a name. Only one of one, right? My husband had a
Go ahead and
last
speak it, girl. One of one. So what would you like to tell the people right there, being that you share some information about communication today, about your business, about what you're up to in life, being about the creating. Tell what people like what if they had 2 minutes to work with you, what if in 2 minutes, can you share with them what they're going to get when they work with you? If they go to vertable.com and they decide they're going to consult with you and work with you, what are they getting?
Yeah, well, we focus on 3 things, 3 pillars: clarity, structure, momentum. Getting clear on where you want to go, but also being clear about where you are. Very important. A lot of people look at the future, but not the present context. And really seeking clarity along the way, moving through the fog. There's so much information, there's so much fog, like moving through that fog and getting clear on what you want to accomplish and where you are in proximity to that and creating that path. And then the structures that would support that and that would cause it to happen, right? It might be conversations you need to have, tools you need, all of those things. That's what we offer. And then momentum. Everything we do is focused on taking actions, but leverage. And I was saying to somebody today, what you want to focus on in terms of leverage, especially if you're somebody who's starting off, or even when you want to get to the next level in your business, even if you have a $1 million business, because we do work with some $1 million clients, right? It's always important to think about leverage as, am I going to lift my car when I change the tire, or am I going to use a jack? Leverage is the jack. We're not going to be out here lifting cars.
Hold on, I don't mean to cut you. Right? Say that again right there. I love that.
So yeah, I mean, you want to think anywhere you want to go, no matter how far you go, no matter how much money you have and what big business you have, you always want to think about leverage as, am I going to lift the car up to change the tire, or am I going to use a jack? A lot of us are lifting the car up, right? Doing all of this work when we can have leverage conversations. And those are some of the most important conversations. And what we do is we support with building momentum, milestones, knowing where you're going, always knowing where you're in proximity to your goal and governing the actions. We do that through our accelerator, the Quantum Accelerator, and also definitely through our First Rev platform and some other programs that we do one-on-one with leaders. But that's what we're focused on. And we use the data, we use the information, we use the context, not as a means to an end, but as a way to inform us as to what's happening, and then giving us access to the most appropriate action, because there's always access. It's never over. It is never over. There's always access.
Got it. Man, so thank you, Jamila, for coming here today. I'm going to close this thing out. Guys, you can find me on Mr. Dominique 2.0, Mr. Dominique 2.0. Thank you guys for coming out here today. If somebody listening and they've been avoiding conversation for a month and months and months, Guys, just step into it. Step into your greatness. Step into who you know yourself to be or who you don't know yourself to be. So just like I end the show every single time, it's one day at a time, one moment at a time. I see you guys out there. Be great in this world and have those conversations.